Hi, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear to Sand podcast. My name is Rowell Dionisio, your co host here, alongside with François, your other co host. How are you doing, François?
Very good. Thank you, Rowell. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's wonderful to record again, get to have other people on the show. So we've got a special guest from Juniper. We've got Abhi Shamsundar from Juniper, who's going to talk about some new releases coming out from Juniper, which can be very exciting, especially around this time that we're recording, where it's close to WLPC. It's also close to Mobility Field Day. So every year we always hear about these new announcements from Juniper. So how are you doing, Abhi?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And you and I have met quite a few times just from working in higher ed, and then we've also seen all three of us together at Mobility Field Day. So I think it's great to have you back on.
We have, and the every time I speak with you guys, I learn a lot. So I'm excited to be here.
Well, I think it's the other way. We learn a lot.
Yeah.
Both ways.
Well, I'm excited to hear about what you're gonna present to us and talk about, and we want to just keep it a open conversation, as we do with every guest who comes on to the show. But why don't you also introduce yourself to everyone who don't know who you are?
Yeah, sure. My name is Abhi Shamsundar. I'm a part of the product management team at Juniper Networks. I focus on all things switching and the software that manages switching. It's called Wired Assurance. And today, I'm excited to talk about switching. Very surprisingly, I want to talk about a brand new switch. Like a true product manager, I'll start with slides, but after that we can go into as many details and questions as we want to go about. But I'm super excited about a new product that's about to hit very soon, very close, 2 days from today when we are recording, and
Yep.
it's the EX4000 switch. Yeah.
All right, there you go. So the EX4000 just to be available right before Valentine's Day. So for all your loved ones out there, and I'm talking about your
Yes.
network because we all love our network, right? This could be a wonderful gift.
It's like a hate-love relationship, right?
That's for
You
sure.
know,
Eh,
there's gonna be only love after this. Hopefully.
Everyone will make up. But we wanted to talk about switching because although this is a Wi-Fi centric podcast, with the new Wi-Fi 7 APs coming out, they do change how we do infrastructure, right? Because there's PoE requirements that are changing. A lot of these APs have up to 10 gig Ethernet ports now. So at some point, a lot of us are going to be swapping out the switches for newer, capable switches to meet today's standards. So I think that's a great way to start this year off as we talk about Wi-Fi 7.
That is so true. The technology treadmill on Wi-Fi is just been going faster and faster in the last 5 years. We have Wi-Fi 7 now, and definitely a switch that you would need a switching upgrade when it comes to higher power that is required for powering up that many radios that you will have on the APs, and obviously we're churning out more traffic through through the airwaves in spite of being half duplex. So you need bigger switches, at least things that can switch packets faster for you. So
Yeah.
definitely this would be one amongst them.
Yeah. I mean, talking about pushing traffic half duplex over the air, but we're approaching wired speeds that we're used to. And I think one of the first questions that comes to my mind is I'm used to seeing like an EX4100, 4400, 4300. This one's the EX4000. So
Yeah.
why introduce an EX4000 model switch?
So we've been in the process of actually upgrading the switching line. But one thing that was extremely important for us was also to bring out switches that are cloud native and also to meet current demands, it needs to be fast. Fast could be many things. We needed something that's built ground up with inputs from how are we able to boot faster. We wanted to be able to make sure that the boot time for the entirety of the switches is less than 2 minutes. That was a gold standard that we set off when we started this project. You've experienced the missed APs. For us, the missed AP boot time was an extremely critical factor, and that comes from top down. For us, boot time is downtime, reboot time is downtime, whatever upgrade time is downtime, and none of that should be too long as a whole. And we've followed something very, very similar approach in terms of at least the thought process of how we built the APs. This switch you would see, there's a whole bunch of fast things that you would see on the slide. We wanted to make sure that we took in the goodness from what we've done from a AP perspective, but bring it on the switch side, but also take some of those elements and also make ourselves ready for the future. Wi-Fi 7 is something that you spoke about. So for us, this needed to be this new line of switching to be brought about.
So, I think the boot time is very important for us on the operational side of things. When you guys came out with the 17 seconds boot time for the missed AP, that was like incredible. It's not really something that, everyone can appreciate, but if you've worked with other APs and you waited 5 minutes or 3 minutes for the APs to boot up, you really appreciate how fast it is. But like you said, it's also good for downtime, reboot time, upgrade time, all of this. The question that I'm wondering is, how are you able to shrink that boot time? Is it like the same OS, or are you not doing things that we were doing before? Like, how did you guys make it happen? Pretty much, that's my question.
A couple of thoughts. So there are things that we don't do on this switch. For example, Rowell, you mentioned 4100. 4100 can also be used in a typical campus where we speak about, let's say, EVP and VXLAN even at the edge, where you're able to route traffic with, and then perform group-based policies and things of that nature. This switch is focused on being able to cater to a really select line of customers who are focused on powering a couple of verticals that comes to mind. Higher education, retail, places where the focus is not routing at the edge, but focus on is providing power. So you will not see us doing EVP and VXLAN on this line, for example. But there is also, over a period of time, you've built a switch for such a long time. There are things that are accumulated over a period of time. So you go through, when you're building something ground up, you say, I don't think I need this. And those elements are taken out. And that's what, takes down. So we obviously strip some stuff that we don't require. But we also said, since we're building it ground up, what are things that are accumulated over a period of time, and what are things that can be actually purged? And that all results in that was the whole operational efficiency that was driven to build this product.
And was it only software, or did you guys take any hardware decisions to meet that goal of booting under 2 minutes as well?
Yeah, so it does come with a higher performing processing power. That's also a part of it. There are two reasons why we did that. Obviously, we said on the top right, it says AI native. I know it almost, if you say cloud native, AI native, it seems like buzzword bingo. But the idea, honestly, was genuinely for us to make it AI native, as in for us to actually do any calculation in the cloud, we need telemetry, and we need it at a rate at which we are able to make meaningful sense out of it. So the processing power required for the switches were also a part of that decision, but it also helped in the boot times as well.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, that's a greatly improved boot time, because I was just upgrading some switches not too long ago. I think they were the 4100, and we were waiting maybe 10, 15 minutes. So to reduce that all the way down to 2 minutes, we're gonna start timing it once we get our hands on.
Oh, yeah. So when you're upgrading, obviously you're copying an image to the device and then you're rebooting. This is specific. The 2 minute is specifically the reboot
Just
time.
boot, just starting up from.
Even
Okay.
how much time does the data plan have impact? That's pretty much the
Okay.
downtime.
Got it.
The copy operation, your packets are still forwarded, so that's okay.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Is that the only big update with
No.
the fourth? Okay.
So one of the things that was a consistent feedback for us from a lot of places, again, the vertical that we spoke about, was we needed something that is quieter. You have to experience this switch. I had a room full of people where I was presenting this late last year. I had the switch plugged in and nobody knew there was a switch in there. It's probably the quietest switch that we have built, probably quietest in its class. I can't claim that yet, but definitely the quietest switch that we have built. And this was for use cases wherein, under desk kind of use cases where it's not fanless, or it's sitting right beside a cashier in a restaurant. These were, real user feedback that we had to honestly take and make a switch usable in an all environment. So that's probably my favorite part, apart from it being the fastest to boot. Dynamic port profiles, it's much faster because it ships with CloudX. Maybe we can talk about CloudX in a little bit, but it ships natively with CloudX, fast and perpetual PoE. Basically, when the device is booting as well, it's still providing power. Let's say you hit an upgrade, it's still continuing to provide power so that it doesn't take power out from an AP that needs an extra long boot time, or a phone, whatever that is being powered. It doesn't have to go through a boot cycle and then start forwarding packets. The moment our data plane is up, then you immediately start forwarding packets. So fast and perpetual PoE become very critical. So those are other elements that are part of it as well. But probably my favorite feature is how quiet it is as a functioning for the port switch with fans in.
That's a feature that I appreciate because I put in quite a few Juniper switches in areas where it needs to be quiet. And I have had a complaint about the fans on the EX switch. So I did have to remove one of the power supplies instead of having, so we didn't have redundant power supplies, but I had to put in a procedure saying if we lose power, just someone has to physically go there and plug in the other one. But I'm just curious, like with higher PoE requirements, I would assume we need more fans for the cooling. And so hardware wise, are they modular fans, or are they built in fans we can't swap out, and then you somehow did sound dampening in the switch itself?
No, there is some. We went even lower. We said it's obviously built in. This is a fixed form factor switch. One of the things that we did is the switch always assumed that you had to have fans blazing when it boots up, because that's how it was programmed. And even in ambient temperature, the fans were on at a higher speed when it was not required to be. Right, the fans should still go up when you're placing it in a 50-degree centigrade, or or a higher temperature environment. The fans do appear will go up at that point in time. But it's when it's placed in an office environment, there's already enough cooling. You're sitting right beside the cash register. That means you're in a great place. There was intelligence built in to figure out what is the temperature outside and what is the amount of cooling that is required for the fans to keep it quiet. You will still that kind of and obviously the fan modules are different, the hardware perspective. Those were taken into consideration. But a lot of what we did get is by optimizing some of the fan speeds when it's not required for it to be that loud. There's new fan modules in there as well. That also helps.
Okay, and how about the depth of the switch? Is it gonna occupy the same amount of space as like a 4400 model switch, or is it
It's much smaller. I have some slides where we speak about, but it's not the full RU like a 44 or a 4300. You know, the switches that you've seen. It is a slightly much smaller form factor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Feel free to show us, Abhi. Well, if you want to share your slides, well, if you guys are listening to this audio, we'll put the video on YouTube so you guys can see what the switch looks like. We'll try to describe it as best as possible.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. So I don't have the picture of the switch itself. Actually, you can see it kind of from here on this representation. It's much smaller in a form factor perspective. I'll also try and pull out a slide of the switch itself while we're conversing. But
and so here on the slide, we can see that you actually have different models. You have 8-port, 12-port, 24, 48, and then you have multi-gig, PoE, and then non-PoE, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Do you want to explain the different flavors?
Definitely. So if you see one of the common things that we also heard, and that is again a new thing from a Juniper perspective, is our 8-port family. We've never had an 8-porter before. This is going to be the first in the EX4000 family or any EX switch family that we are introducing a 8-port with PoE support in them, 2 10 gig uplinks. You also have the 24 and 48 port with multi-rate as well. So you get 2.5 gig ports, 8 of them in a 48 port. So that's if you're technically looking at AP distribution, as long as usually also if many other things that are getting plugged into, and in accordance to how do you salt and pepper APs across multiple multiple line cards of a given virtual chassis. Virtual chassis is in a non Juniper lingo, sometimes it's called stacking. But essentially, if you want to make sure that your APs are spread across different line cards of a given stack or a given virtual chassis, then and if you're distributing 8 per switch, you can actually do 8 ports of multi-gig on the 48 port multi-gig switch. And you also have dedicated stacking cables. That means you're just plugging in DAC cables, 10 gig DAC cables, for you to easily plug in, and then the switches form virtual chassis all by themselves. They'll hit the Mist cloud, get its config, and all things that you've done with word assurance, zero touch provisioning, easy provisioning, and also hopefully the speed with which the devices boot help. But definitely multi-rate ports are on 48 port, you get eight of them. On 24 port, you get 4 of them. You also get on the 12 port SKU 4 of the 2.5 gig ports. That means even in a fanless model, you get a multi-rate line or 4 multi-rate ports for you to plug in APs if you're doing under desks or in especially in education. If you're doing in classroom below the podium kind of switches, this would probably be very helpful.
Or even in retail, if you have like a small store and you just need a couple of APs.
Yeah,
you can. Okay, and the connection to the cloud, is that included in the 2 minutes?
So no, 2 minutes.
Okay.
You probably are adding another 45 seconds for it. It does go through the process of zero touch provisioning. The device boots up. It has CloudX built in. That means it knows it doesn't have to download any further firmware for it to reach the cloud. So when we're shipping it, it ships with CloudX. For folks who don't know, CloudX is the newer iteration of us moving away from what we had traditionally been doing for the last 4 years. That was, we used a custom port 2200 on TCP for us to communicate from the switch to the cloud. We no longer do that. It's very AP-esque, as in it communicates to the switch. The switch communicates to the cloud over port 443. And that's so you don't have to punch holes specifically outbound from your network going outbound. You never usually have you've never had even previously had to punch in anything coming in. So
so it's similar to the access points, right?
Very similar to the access points, just a different endpoint.
Okay. Okay, so the switch will reach out to a specific address in the cloud using 443, and then it'll get onboarded that way.
Correct. And since you can build templates well in advance, the moment it completes the zero-touch provisioning, it also gets its config. And for all APs and phones and stuff, we usually use dynamic port profiles. That means they'll match off of LLDP TLVs, any of them. If you're doing MIST APs, for example, just match on LLDP description starting with MIST, and the APs get onboarded automatically. VoIP phones, cameras, for example, if you're doing any camera of that sort, in fact, any power-seeking device always usually negotiates using LLDP. So, and we could use any of the LLDP TLVs to say, I identify myself by the description, the OUI. The OUI is probably complicated because different manufacturers have different OUI, but you could do system ID, lots of functions within TLVs that you could use.
So you're saying we could do like zero-touch provisioning. So if I work for a retail company and we're opening a new store, we could ship the APs and ship the switch, and then connect everything, and everything gets configured without really doing much.
That is definitely the intent. So for the most part, if you think about the entire process of building a store, for example, especially if you're converting a store, the way you would envision this is you're going in, there is an existing set of store devices that's already there. And usually you never have rack space to add another one right away. So you go in a couple of hours prior, just form the virtual chassis, just seek one single port on the management port on the existing infrastructure, connect it to the management port of the Juniper switch. The Juniper switch will ZTP, get its config, will become a virtual chassis automatically. You don't have to connect the clients yet. You wait for the store to close. And all you're doing at that point in time is just moving cables from the existing switch to the new switches, and then off you go. I've done deployments of switches just using this methodology, wherein you're in and out of the store within 2.5 to 3 hours, and the longest pole in the tent being actually having to go install switches probably higher up in the racks or somewhere in the middle of the store, somewhere up in the air. But barring that, this can be extremely fast. You can expedite your onboarding and cutover process much significantly faster.
And then I'm guessing that when the switch connects to the cloud would know that it's a EX4000. Sorry.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Okay.
So, like, how the APs have a claim code, the switches all have a claim code too. The claim code associates itself to a serial number, a platform, a SKU. All of that is built in the backend.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's the easiest way to do it. You no longer have to set aside a block of ports and say these are my AP ports. These other sets are my camera, security camera ports. For me, it's just saying what am I seeing on LLDP? Oh, I see a missed AP. Assign an AP port profile. Oh, I see this camera. Assign the AV or the security port profile that has all the VLANs. And I think that for us, when we talk about efficiency and quick to deploy, that's what I look for as someone who does consulting with other people. It's like, well, here's how fast we can be in deploying. Your downtime is very low. We're not talking days of downtime as we try to cut over to this network, and makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. if you're watching the screen, this is where you would come in the Rowell spoke about port profiles. For us, port profiles are the definitions of personas that are coming into the network. For example, what does an AP require? A trunk port, and then port description. What are the networks that you're allowing, and also the physical properties, speed, duplex, MAC limit. All of that makes a port profile. You build that once, and subsequently, all you would do is just say anytime anything that matches this definition I'm saying LLDP port description starts with mist, then automatically put this in to the AP port profile. What this does is it takes away, like Rowell said, the overhead of having to go assign ports to their port profiles, as we call them, every single time you do it. The hardest part is just defining these port profiles once.
Yeah, and a lot of the installers get confused by that because they're so used to having some sort of patch matrix. And they're like, where do I plug in the access point? Where do I plug in the camera? And they get confused when I say, I don't care, just plug it in and it'll do the rest.
Yeah, it definitely, and also it takes out some of the manual errors that may happen, saying somebody plugged in the wrong port. One thing I will say, and probably as a confession, whenever you're migrating from another popular vendor to us, we start port numbering schema from 000, and the other vendors as a whole, they usually start from 001, for example. And if the cut sheet or the port mapper, like you said, does not account for it, there might be some chances of somebody plugging in, assuming that these are the odd ports, these are the even ports, and it's vice versa. So some of these errors, this is automation. Yeah, this is what we would want to do.
Yeah, minimize the amount of errors, and that way. But let's talk about the mgig port though, because are those specifically on set ports, or do you just have a specific number of ports that can be mgig? How does that work?
There can only be 8 ports, and they are specifically the first 8 ports, 0 through 7.
Gotcha. So if you've got an AP47, you're going to want to say, hey, it has to go any port as long as it's the first 8.
First 8, yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any fancy LEDs that let you know if you're out of PoE or if you're connected to the cloud or anything like this?
Yeah, the cloud, definitely, yes.
Okay.
So the thing that we want, again, there's a lot of cloud elements that we have built. Every time you go to the switches page, we'd want to showcase, for example, what is the state of the network? If a device is not connected, and we do this with the APs too today. And it's been, for example, this particular AP, it says no IP address. If the AP is not connected to the cloud, you technically shouldn't be getting any information from the AP, right? How do you know that the device is not connected to the cloud because it doesn't have an IP? Is because we share the information over Bluetooth to the nearest connected AP.
Mm-hmm.
We do something very similar to with the switches as well. If there is a switch that is connected to an upstream switch, which is already connected to the cloud, but the switch won't come up, it will tell the same few things, right? It will say, I am not connected because I don't have an IP, I don't have a default gateway, the DNS server is wrong, my cloud is unreachable because your firewall is blocked. Whatever the answer is, you have this, and this is seen on the LED on the switch itself, as well as this is percolated over LLDP to the neighboring switch. That way, that switch can tell the cloud saying, hey, I have a switch connected. Looks like the default gateway isn't reachable. Then they say, oh, I put it on the wrong native VLAN, and they fix it. So you don't have to go truck roll, console in, figure out what's going on. That's the intent. Try to make it as cloud native as possible.
You should add a Bluetooth radio in there so you can talk to the APs.
I'm sure
that part of the discussions?
It has been. There is. I'll talk about that to you guys offline. It has been a very
I mean, it makes sense now that you're explaining it. It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay.
And those are all features that come included with the 4000, the EX4000. It's not like because it's a lower number, it's a EX4000 versus a 4100, that you're not missing any features that you would see in the dashboard?
No, all the things that we're doing, everything that comes as part of us monitoring, us providing telemetry, all the way from your bad cables to MTU mismatches, anything layer 1, layer 2, all of them are still continue to do the same, because this switch was built for telemetry to be consumed in a very optimal fashion, and none of that changes. The one important thing that's the difference between the 4100, 4400 line would be the fact that it does not participate in actually being a part of EVP and VXLAN topology, wherein it itself is part of a or a VTEP itself. Barring that, everything else that you see, including we don't, you still have the ability to do static routing. You still have the ability to do basic OSPF. All of that still continues to stay. None of that changes.
And when you talk about telemetry, can you tell us a little bit more which telemetry you're talking about here?
Yeah. So, for example, we talk about what is known as the service level expectations, right? This is where we say, hey, you've got all of these interface anomalies. This is where I tell you bad cable is the problem, MTU is the problem, there's a negotiation failure. You have congestion in the network because somebody is pummeling your interface at the rate at which you can't handle it and you're stopping to drop traffic. All of them, at the heart of them, are, counters somewhere in the switch, right? Now, what is the smartest and the most efficient way to get that information out to the cloud is telemetry for us. The telemetry on all CloudX enabled devices, especially the 4000s, are no longer a pull model. They are push, as in there is periodic, there's on change, all things that you would think from a modern automation framework. This piece of information being shared to the cloud is done, either it's an event based or on change or periodic. Every minute you send me this particular sensor telemetry is all done now directly from the switch. You no longer are polling for it, and that's why it's a lot more efficient for us to gather that information.
Okay. And the switches, they're still running Juno's OS?
They are
Okay.
running Junos OS, all the goodness that comes with it, programmability, automation, all parts still stays the same.
Okay. And then I'm guessing they'll be cheaper than the other series, right? They'll be your best priced switches.
This is probably, this is our best price switch, not probably. This is our best price switch. This is, if you're looking for a switch that does everything I said and everything I said it wouldn't, right? Which is, for the most part, from an access switch perspective, they should fit the bill. You're looking at the right switch.
Yeah, I think I think it can be a very popular switch because in a lot of places as an access switch, it meets the requirements, right?
Yeah.
If you were to connect, like you said, APs, cameras, maybe VoIP phones or workstations, I think it can be a very popular switch for you guys.
It definitely is, and for us, again, that part of APs and cameras were very critical. We wanted to make sure we are able to do 60 watts of power and very high, wattage of power as a whole. Apparently, obviously Wi-Fi 7 APs, you'll need that much power, but the modern cameras that are coming through not only are just doing camera stuff, they're doing infrared, they're doing some basic intelligence natively on the cameras before their telemetry goes off, means they need more power. So all of them are usually more IP based now. So there's a lot more devices that are coming onto the network that require more power, and this was very critical for us to get this model right. With, even though it is the best price switch, we wanted to make sure you get the right power for especially you're doing retail, if you're doing K through 12 higher education. These are as they call brass tacks, and we wanted to make sure that's there, and it gives you all of that.
And in terms of licensing, it's a typical MIST license where you get like the 12 port, and I guess you guys will have a new 8 port license.
No, 8 and 12 are the same.
Oh, 8 and 12. Okay. So it's 12, 24, and 48. Okay.
If you've seen, we'd like to keep the minimum of the lines on your when you.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
It should be 2, at most 3 lines. Obviously, you need DAC cables and stuff like that, but the product itself, minimal number of lines. So you will see a combined SKU for software on the switch if you're buying any this, and then the software for the Mist subscription and the device itself. These are 2 things that come as a part of the quoting. So
the power cord comes with it.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds like you had an issue before, François.
No, it's you never know. It's better to ask.
No, I'm the same way. I had to ask someone, like, it comes with the power cords, right? Because I don't see them here.
Yeah. And since all this is a fixed form factor version, you're not looking at adding uplinks or not getting the right SFP. I mean, it's already
It's a
in there.
fixed uplink module.
And
you
then
don't have to change it out.
Part applies to, correct. Yeah.
And so that uplink module, is it 2 ports? Is there a 4-port capability, or with up to
It
10
can
gig?
be 4 ports if you'd like to. 2
Okay.
ports are dedicated for virtual chassis, but you can, if you're not using the as a stacked switch, as a member of a stack switch, then you can just use all 4 of them to uplink them, or you can use 4 10 gig ports, or you could use 2 of the 10 gig ports to go down to a server somewhere. It's a choice.
So for the chassis portion where you're gonna stack the switches, you're using 2 of the SFP bays in the front of the switch. There's no dedicated cable in the back, or
no, there's no dedicated cable in the back. You would use the 2 of the ports, and you could use all 4 if you'd like to. There'll be no dedicated ports at the back. You could just use the 2 here, and this is the same model that we have tried to do with the 4100s as well. So we're going to continue doing this for this model too.
And for the most part, is the hardware underneath, is it the same as the other switches?
No, there has been a few changes that we have done. So you will see, as I said, slightly higher processing power. It is different.
Okay. I mean, what else should we know about this switch? It's pretty capable.
I want to ask if you guys have any features that are not software enabled yet, but that you may thinking of adding or enabling in the future. I don't know if you can answer that question, but I gotta ask it.
There is a USB port that we have not done. I can't speak much about right now, but there is a USB port that's there. That's...
I bet you, François, it's gonna be Bluetooth capable through the USB port. Just add a Bluetooth adapter.
A gateway. Yeah. You connect a gateway of some sort. Interesting. Okay. Or you can charge your phone.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Or you can charge your phone. Yes.
That's what I use it for.
I mean, the other part is all the ports, all the standard port security functions are supported from the get-go. That also means it integrates natively with the Mist NAC. You can actually make this truly zero trust by saying every single port, the revenue ports that are out there, just don't bother, make everything 822.1x, fall back to MAB, and you can make your, at least anybody who needs to go through, goes through a first order of security check to say whether are you allowed to get into the network or not. You could also then double down, put them on the right VLAN automatically. All of that stuff is possible. But again, you guys have hopefully already experienced the Mist NAC. The most beautiful part about it is you don't have to have a server on-prem. You're not looking and maintaining its servers that needs to be upgraded. So if you want to try it out, you just go enable Mist NAC and it starts working right away.
I like the fact that the telemetry from the NAC is also integrated into Marvis, so it's easier to troubleshoot.
It is, and it continues with this too. So all telemetry will be seen on the switch insights. You can ask Marvis questions on why is my switch not able to help this device on board connect. We'll troubleshoot and we'll tell you the answer.
Okay, so if we want to learn more about these switches, where should we go? Do you guys have any documents, data sheets that you have available?
Yeah. So as soon as it's launched, you'll have a landing page. There is going to be a detailed data sheet, as well as there are resources that will be out as part of as part of this launch. There is specific tech videos that are made dedicated to speak about the verticals that this plays in, as well as we'll share all this information on Juniper.net, as well as some of the social handles that we have.
Cool.
Okay.
We'll try to relay them on our show notes when it's available.
We'll include links on the show notes. But I'm curious, like, you have the launch, but how soon after will it be orderable?
Yeah, so there are two parts you will see. There is the MP SKUs that are going to be orderable right away after the launch, which is the 12th of Feb. And then there is just the P SKUs that will be, and they will be available end of February. So you're looking at probably 10 days to 20 days more for you to get actually hands-on if you order immediately. And then there are the P SKUs, which is going to be available the 4th month of February, which is second quarter of 2025. So it's coming out very soon. By the time you probably are seeing this video, you're 5 days away or 6 days away from laying your hands on these.
So is this replacing the EX2300?
No, this is augmenting. We are adding another line, prior. If you look at our positioning as well, you will see us position this right all the way up front. I told you it's the best price switch, but it also, not modular. That means it's form factor. So it'll be one step before the 2300s.
Okay.
All of this will continue.
Yeah, this slide is good. We'll probably also add it in the show notes so you guys can see like the where the 4000 sits in the line of switches that you guys have. But it's pretty much at the beginning.
Yes.
Awesome. Yep. Well, thank you, Abhi. Thank you for being on the show with us. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Yeah.
Thank you guys very much for the opportunity to come on this show and for me to talk about the switch. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to send us your questions, put them in the comments of the video down below or in the show notes page for the audio. But yeah, it was really good information, and I actually can't wait to get my hands on it because I do have some use cases for it, and I'd like to try it out, especially having it being, either the fanless models, having it be quiet, but also there's features that I have clients that they don't use those features, like the EVPN. So this would make a lot of sense.
I'll look forward to your feedback, Rowell.
Yeah, I want to see a picture. I want to see the AP47 connected to one of them.
Connected to a 4000. Yeah. Do that.
Yeah, just in time for Valentine's Day. Two pieces of hardware coming together. All right. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing with us the new hardware, the EX4000. And again, thank you guys for listening or watching. If you're on YouTube, we greatly appreciate you. If you found this useful, let us know or hit the like button. But thank you again for joining us on a new episode. So thank you guys. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.